John Capobianco is a big shot with FleishmanHillard HighRoad, which is a public affairs, a public relations company. I want to bring him in today because there's a survey out from the government saying that most Canadians now distrust media, they distrust news, they distrust the newspapers, and that social media is not that. They're talking about state-of-the-mill, run-of-the-mill media, and they don't believe it anymore. How do you deal with that in your business?
Well, it's a big challenge for sure, because at the end of the day, not only do corporations rely on media, but individuals rely on media. And what we've seen over the course of the last number of years, especially coming out of the US, is this kind of bias that a lot of the media are getting into. We've got major networks in the US specifically that are known to be either Republican or Democrat, and another way.
And so if you're Republican, you watch that one and you become more Republican.
Well, you become more Republican and you get more entrenched. But I think that level of bias in media was never heard of years and years ago. But in Canada, luckily, Stephen, we're not in that stage. There are some media.
John, what about, for instance, the Toronto Star?
Well,
a lot of money from the federal government.
Yes.
And any liberal, you could call a turnip a liberal, and they would support it.
I remember getting the National Post and the Toronto Star and how diabolically opposed they were with respect to
political media. Is that the start of the distrust?
But not to the extent that we see in the U.S. But I think that is the beginning of it, where people are sort of realizing, you know what, I'm watching this news and they're getting to be so biased about a certain thing, it turns them off. And what they're doing now is they're reverting to social media in some cases. And then social media has become really, really popular for a lot of the younger generation who tend to use social media as their only source of news versus the major networks and or the papers, which of course now are getting thinner and thinner by the day.
Yeah, as one person said when they were testifying before the House of Commons Committee, they said, I've been out of the country for 11 years. I came back, the Globe and Mail is just like a flyer.
Yeah, I still get the Globe and Mail every Saturday morning. I still love the feel of the paper, and it literally is a tenth of what it was before.
So, let me put this hard question to you. Social media, we get that. The Prime Minister wants to censor it. We're going to be fighting that. But what's the future of the news business in Canada?
Well, there's always going to be news. There's always going to be some need for news, and I think that more and more now, the opportunity to remain unbiased or to remain true to their stories is going to be what's going to be important. And I think that's what Canadians are looking for, and that's what they're skeptical of. They don't believe that's going to happen anytime soon, and that's the reason why I think a lot of people are turning off the media.
And yet you hear the stories of the old newspaper wars of 100 years ago when you knew the Star was liberal, the Telegram was conservative, the Globe and Mail was business, and people would just, there's all kinds of mistruths going around. So it's not new, but it's just that we're tiring of it.
Well, and it's also getting to a point where it's getting more exasperated, and that's why. It's getting more pronounced by virtue of the biases that we're seeing in the newspaper business.
Capobianco, that's why you're the head of that corporation. 3 minutes. Justin Trudeau is now on the record as saying that social media is destabilizing, and he wants to bring in censorship to determine what can be put on and not on social media. That is wrong. Please support this station, and please add your address so I can write you a letter and thank you for supporting freedom of speech.